Newsline continues. Time for our interview with the governor of Mombasa County. Now, when Kenyans went to vote on the 9th of August, 2 counties did not elect their governor until the 29th, when Mombasa residents and those of Kakamega then went back to the ballot to choose their governor. In Mombasa, Abdulswamad Nassir emerged the victory, the winner. And since then, he has been running the county. He is our guest this evening. Governor, karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you.
Now, Governor, it's been slightly above 100, more than 100 days since you were sworn in and you took the oath of office to serve the people of Mombasa. Since then, it's taken you quite a while to actually finish forming your own government. Are you done with that?
Yes, I've already nominated all the CECs. In fact, the CECs have already been interviewed. We're waiting for the county assembly to be able to deliberate and give us a report and the go-ahead. We've also nominated our chief officers to the assembly. And anytime now, you need to... I think Mombasa was the only one I decided to call for interviews for CECs as well. Legally, constitutionally, the mandate was on me to pick whoever I thought was going to be fit. But out of just nothing else, but let's see who is willing to be able to work for the people of Mombasa, opened it up. Took a bit of time, but I'm happy, I'm impressed, and I'm glad. A slight delay, but nevertheless,
was this in your plan when you were campaigning to be governor? Was it your plan that when if I get elected, I'm going to go this route? I'm going to go this route in selecting my CECs and CEOs?
Yes, I did make a pledge, and the pledge that I did to the people is that Mombasa belongs to. We need to see the face of Kenya, and some of the things that I did do was actually just that, to ensure that we have a proper representation. Mombasa is one of the most cosmopolitan counties in the whole of Kenya. The most cosmopolitan. You go to other counties in this country, they're very homogeneous in nature. During certain days of the week, the whole county is probably at a standstill because of religious purposes. You go to the Kisii side, everyone is not going to be working on Saturday. You go to the northeastern side, probably many people will not be working on Friday. You go to certain areas of this country where there is, traditional seasons for many things. But Mombasa, you can't. It's one of the only county actually where everyone is there. Everyone is there. Okay. And I'm proud. I'm truly honored and humbled. I represented initially one of the most cosmopolitan constituencies, and I'm now governor of the most cosmopolitan county in the country.
By choosing that route, Governor, did you not open up this process to now political games behind the scenes? I mean, we saw it. It was all allegations coming out of Mombasa. It was within the news that there were all political interests that were now trying to fix their people into your government.
There's so much you can be able to do on allegations. And that's why they're called what they're called, allegations.
Now I'm asking you, did you actually feel the pressure from other political quarters and business interests?
Not at all. I'm doing this. I mean, even the people who you feel were probably going to put in a bit of pressure on me realize 2 things. One, I'm not the kind to actually be suppressed onto pressure. And 2, I have the interests of Mombasa at heart.
What kind of interest?
Surprisingly,
what kind of interest did you feel, or pressure?
Not much. Surprisingly, all these things that were going out on the media, that so and so is not going to be able to choose a cabinet because so and so is telling him to do this. I got things that were being said on media. And I was I was just looking at some of these things, and in my heart, I was like, wow, people do have a crazy level of imagination. I had two options: either to start, after every allegation, start saying, no, this is not the case, or simply just say, you know what, concentrate on what you're doing, do what you need to do, and just get it right.
I'm going to throw in some of the big names, all right? Some business interests. Raila Odinga, the ODM party leader, who is your party leader. Ali Hassan Joho, your friend, the former governor. Are you your own man?
None of them actually asked me for anything. Literally, none of them. To the extent that the agreement that I have with my predecessor, like you said, rightfully, my brother, do what needs to be done. If you need any advice, give me a call. I'll be able to advise you where I feel I can be able to advise you. If there are issues that I feel need some sort of clarifications, and we do the same. Not even a single one of my CECs, not even a single one of them had any level of political interference. Some of them I didn't even know them. I put in a panel, and I told them, you know what, just give me some of the best names. Some of them I didn't know them. Some of them are people that I've worked with over a period of time.
In your manifesto, you had titled it A New Beginning for Mombasa. Why did you choose that? Why a new beginning?
Every single day you wake up in the morning, it's a new beginning. You strive to be better from what you were yesterday. However good you are today, the fact that you can be able to get better by 1%, by 2%, by 10%, you're still better. And the only person who doesn't want positive growth is someone who's 6 feet under. Someone who's 6 feet under, every time that there's positivity, it means they're continuously deteriorating and rotting. So a new beginning, it's a very, very simple phrase. Mwanzo mpya.
You didn't have no, inclination to signaling that this is something that's going to be different from what we're used to for the past 10 years of the previous administration.
As a matter of fact,
is this a continuation? Is it continuity, or is it? I said
this during my campaigns. It was very, very easy. It was very, very easy for me to wake up and start lamenting and lamenting and lamenting. And I said this during the elections. I said this, actually coincidentally, the day I was being given my certificate by IEBC. And I said this after having taken office. I said this when I was being sworn in as well. Whatever is good that has been done, you continue with that journey. Whatever negated in any way, my role is not to continuously dig in. My role is to be able to ensure that we learn from the experiences of others. The people of Mombasa are not gonna, 5 years from today, they're not gonna judge me based on my very, very ferocious, and I've said this before and I'm saying it again, we did a campaign based on nothing else except issues. I refused to be drawn into campaigns of allegations for purposes of getting some form of mileage or anything like that. And every single time I would sit down with my team and I asked them, you know, try and analyze and ask yourself, why are our ratings where they are? And it's nothing else except consistency. Being consistent to your people, being there, believing in something, starting it and making sure that you go to the end. And if it hits a hard end, you look for a chisel and a mallet to either go through it. And if you feel the time is not right now, you don't lose out. You say that this has reached a certain level, let's divert into something else. We're going to come back here when the ground is more soft. And that's what I believe in. And 5 years from today, I hope my words will be able to be echoed, that I said that as well. My chances of being re-elected will not be based on allegations and counter-allegations. They will be based on
your performance record
that I've had on people's lives.
Immediately you took over office, you assigned your deputy to go around the county cleaning it up. What was that saying? Were you saying that, you've just inherited a very dirty county?
Again, Eric, you're asking me to actually be able to, the curveball that you're trying to throw is to try and continuously give allegations on every single person has different ways of doing things. When we got in, I looked at, and I talked to my able deputy, who I want to appreciate the kind of work that he's putting in, the kind of hours he's putting in. And we said, look, allow me to handle the issue of resources, how we can be able to rope in development partners, how we can be able to ensure that resources are not diverted in a crazy way, how we can be able to do all these other things. At the same time, I'm delegating the part of ensuring that we do the cleanup is done on your part. We had a lot of support, and I'm so grateful. I'm truly, truly grateful. I know probably I'll be able to get an opportunity to say this later on, but in case I don't, I want to say this. I'm truly grateful to the people of Mombasa. The level of goodwill that they've showered this administration with is unbelievable. And yes, we got a lot of people who were able to assist us. But even more than that, when it comes to waste collection, my last meeting that I had was actually yesterday with you and Habitat, and we're looking at a feasibility on what should be done in regards to the solid waste that is currently there. And there are many, many suggestions that have been forthcoming from private entities, probably 15, 20 different reputable organizations have written to me asking me. And I want to make a decision that is going to be precise, and I want to make a decision that is going to be informed. So we're waiting for TORs from UN Habitat, and we'll probably, in about a week or two, advertising on the way forward for solid waste management in Mombasa.
Surely, Governor, when you were campaigning for this, you already knew you are not new to Mombasa. You've served as a member of parliament for a Mombasa constituency for years. You have grown up there. You are not new to Mombasa. You are, I'm sure, aware of very many proposals that have been given before on how to handle solid waste in Mombasa.
I agree. And like I said,
you cannot be waiting for another one now to start a conversation with you and Habitat.
You know, a leader is a person who has to make a decision, not based on haste, but based on an informed perspective. When I tell you the organizations that have written letters to us and they're private entities with their own profitable interests as well, not necessarily just for the purposes of cleaning Mombasa. And we've got more than 15 to 20 different entities writing to you. And one is telling you, we will be able to provide you this and this and this, and the other is telling you this. When you've got so many such kind, the best solution is you get an environmental expert, someone who can be able to actually, people who can actually be able to give you something and tell you, Governor, these are the different scenarios that are currently there. There's already a pre-feasibility that was done by UN Habitat. And after my discussion with them, we agreed that yes, there's going to be an in-depth that is going to be done, but at the same time, now I'm going to ask all these people to formally submit all their proposals. I don't want to be told that, this guy met someone at a coffee shop and he made a decision on behalf of 1.8 million people. That's not how I'm going to run the county. I'm going to advertise it. like I advertise for everything else, we're going to be doing public participation. I want to see out there. In fact, I've even gone ahead and said that this is something that is unique to in Kenya. It's something that is not really solidly available in this country. We've got countries that have had problem with solid waste and were able to overturn their problems into not just solutions, but into opportunities. And we are looking at even sending this advert to those foreign countries and telling everyone, look, just give us the ideas that you have. And I'm confident. I'm confident that before my term is over, whatever decision that I'll be able to make, whether it's going to be waste to energy, whether it is going to be an issue of recycling and separation of waste, whether it is going to be an issue of nothing else but waste to oil or any other, there's so much different technologies that have been coming up.
That's a long term.
It's not even going to be a long term.
By the time you finish your first term, you'll be having some direction that will be giving the county on how to handle its waste. In the meantime, how do you want to handle waste management and collection?
In the meantime, I think I've been doing a good job. We've been doing it. We've been collecting waste. We've been sending the waste to where waste is meant to be disposed. And like I said, when you want to do something on an informed perspective, this feasibility is already quite clear that we're not disposing 100% of our waste the way it is meant to. Mombasa has a Solid Waste Management Act. The Solid Waste Management Act actually is quite clear. The separation of waste has to start at source. That means if you're a house owner or a shop owner, you have to be able to start that from source. Everything needs resources. Everything. Training the people, getting in CBOs on how we're going to be collecting this from household levels, doing things that, giving people the necessary materials, that this is where you should be putting in your glass, this is where you should be putting in your weight waste, this is where you should be putting in your plastic, and the papers or whatever it is. And all these companies have given us different kind of ideas. Others are saying, just bring the waste to us, you collect it. Others are saying, no, not only bring it to us, but bring it to us and also pay us something. Others are saying, everyone, I don't want to get into all those details.
Everybody has got their idea.
Everyone has got their ideas, but I want to make a decision that is going to be informed. And I'm glad that one of the first things we did when we got into office was actually tackle this matter, talking to development partners. And as we're speaking right now, the last meeting that I had, we're expecting terms of references by this week, and hopefully we should be advertising. So if you hear anyone, please ask them to. Mombasa is open for all.
We're waiting for, you said you're waiting for UN Habitat. Anyway, let's continue. As you were spending the last 100 or so days in office, you must have been looking at what the priority areas would be for your administration. Of course, looking at your own manifesto and what you consider to be like your 10 priority areas, I'm sure those must have been whittled down now to 5. What would you say are the main pain points for residents of Mombasa County?
Lack of jobs, the economic situation that is biting not just Mombasa, biting the country and many other parts of this world, is a growing concern. It's a true growing concern. One, we are coming up with what is called an ease of doing business directorate, right, which will be in one way or the other reporting to the governor's office. And the purpose of this is simple. With all these companies that are going to be opening up in Dongokundu, and we have our own, as Mombasa, our own special economic zone, the Mombasa Industrial Park, that we've been gazetted already. One of the things that we were able to do during our 100 days of office, we got our gazette already. We are soon going to be advertising for the horizontal infrastructure partner to come on board on that. So one of the things that we need to tie down on is the livelihood of people. That's the reason why the parking fees for the tuk-tuks and the matatus was something that we reduced. The SBPs for the tiny guys out there are things that we were able to reduce as well. And there's quite a lot that we've been able to do. One of the other things that I want to do, it's going to be the governor's flight program. I've had a word with the CS for Foreign Affairs. I intend to tie this down with the CS for Labor. By the time jobs are going to be available in Mombasa with Dongo Kundu and any other, you're looking at probably about a year on. I'm looking at, or probably even more. Well, the president is coming to ground break. I'm informed reliably. I know he's coming for other issues in Mombasa this week, but he's also going to be groundbreaking the Dongo Kundu. And equally, there are some companies that have already started groundbreaking into that Dongo Kundu area as well. So probably not more than a year, but between that time, what we want to do is to tap in one of the largest remittances into this country in terms of the GDP is people from the diaspora.
Yeah.
I personally am not of the belief that we can only be able to send nannies and house girls and just house drivers and all. But we've got a lot of people who have the technical know-how, and we want to facilitate them to actually be able to travel. It's a conversation that I've had positively with the CS for Foreign Affairs. As long as the lot that we're going to be able to send, and if all goes well, I've already discussed this with the financial institution at zero interest. Whatever the cost of making you travel, we cater for part of it. You go, start working. After a couple of months, you start remitting over a period of about a year at zero interest on you, as long as you remit and you have people who are dependent. So a couple of things are going to happen. You've got money that is going to be circulating, and we're looking at about 1,500 people this year alone that I intend to take out of this country.
That would be interesting, Governor. But then some things need to happen. Number one, you need a database of all the available skilled labor that you have in Mombasa. Number two, then you need to categorize those ones so that as you're talking to the CSS for Labor and Foreign Affairs, and you're looking for those opportunities, you're actually looking for specific opportunities. Is that in motion?
Actually, you sound like myself when I talk to my team, and that is exactly what is being done. It is not even an issue of, at least on my part, when I was a member of parliament, and I cannot be biased towards an area that I once represented. I did have that database of people that we were able to train on different vocational skills, from forklift operators to you name it. But I want to do that now. The county actually does have a database of all these people who were trained by the county government, but it needs to be updated.
Trained and certified.
Trained and satisfied. And not only that, part of the things that we're also going to be doing is you're not just going to be given a ticket and told go and travel.
Yeah.
You need to be trained and to be certified. First of all, you're also going to be given a course. There's a special course that when you go out there into people's countries, there's certain levels of etiquettes. There's certain things that you need to start learning and all. And then not only that, I want to make sure this is where it is. This is the thing that is going to break the camel's back, and I'm not going to take any other way out. I insist that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs needs to ensure that if someone from Mombasa has left Mombasa and has gone to Dubai, has gone to Qatar, has gone to any part of the world to go and work there, I need these people to be registered at the foreign affairs, at the embassies. I need to know where my people are going to be. I'm not going to just take people and send them out there not knowing their fate. They have to be registered. We have to come up with a way for if anything happens to any single person, I know that there is an embassy that is being taken care of by Kenyan taxpayers that is going to ensure that the interests of our people are going to be looked into.
Catering for their welfare end to end.
Exactly. Not even just an issue of welfare, but I mean, we need to go into the direction of countries like Philippines that has a very, very large labor force. In fact, one of the highest incomes for countries like that comes from diaspora.
Yeah. Let's talk timelines. So the initial cohort you're thinking of is 1,500.
It's 1,500. Actually, the financing has already been finalized.
1,500 residents of Mombasa.
1,500 individuals. And I want to re-emphasize this. The financing has already been finalized. I think we...
and when you say financing, this is financing for the airlift.
Well, of course, the airlift and everything else, this has already been finalized, but I cannot be able just to go and pick up any agents outside there, and then they go out and they create a mess. I'm not going to be part and parcel of that. I want something that is going to be tied down with the relevant ministries, and that is the Ministry of Labor and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So that once these things are tied down properly, I need these agencies, whoever, to give us some form of guarantees that my people are not going to go out there and be what we never planned for them
slavery. To be. So timelines then, Governor? Are we talking April, May, June?
Well, if all goes well and Ministry of Labor does play their part in time, we're looking at doing this most likely just after the month of Ramadan, which is going to probably around June. May, June.
Okay. That's labor exports. Then you talked about also the special economic zones.
But by the way, you need to realize another thing. I mean, yes, this is labor export, but it's labor export because we've got one of the highest unemployment rates in the country right now.
As Mombasa County?
As Mombasa County. In fact, when I was on the front line of crying about the issues of the effect of SGR, this is really, really compounded so much. Destroying something takes a click of a finger. Building it back takes time. Yes, the port services have been ordered to come back, but these companies need time to be able to come back. I'm glad. I monitor through their agencies. I've monitored through the KIFWA, the Institute for Freight Forwarders, who are informing me that a number of companies are coming back to Mombasa. We go through the economic index of published by the Central Bank of Kenya. There is positive growth around Mombasa. I talk to various sectors that give us an indication of what the level of economic growth is. Tourism sector, by now, hotels would not necessarily be full. But the other day, just a few days ago, I was in one of the hotels and they were telling me that they're actually totally full. Another indicator that there is growth in any county is when you see people wanting to develop. And we're seeing the level of applications that are coming in. It's an indication that Mombasa is actually growing. But like I said, we're not going to be able to take everyone and absorb all these young people at a go. Secondly, the SEZ that are going to be coming up, both Dongokundu and the Mombasa Industrial Park, will need labor that is skilled, but not just skilled alone, skilled and with a little bit of experience. I'm hoping that when these people have been able to go out there, they nurture that skill. If they're able to grow out and spread their wings even further when they're out of the country, by all means. I mean, they have all our blessings. But I am hopeful as well that some of them will be able to come back and work in Mombasa And not for any other reason, but because we would have created a conducive environment for people to get that level of employment.
To get to that level of skill, you have to look at basic education. Now, basic education, of course, education is only devolved to the extent of early childhood education, but those are still your residents. Now, we see a lot of conversations, especially around the time when results are released and into admission into Form 1 and into college. And very many of these conversations come from counties such as yours, where students sit for exams, they're admitted to secondary school, and they're not able to attend. Reason? School fees, because of their poverty levels of the families they come from. Is the county government thinking of anything to support children to ensure there's a 100% transition and reduce the dropouts that you see in your county?
You know, there's no worse kind of poverty than urban poverty. Urban poverty hits the hardest. This is the level of conversation that probably later on, depending on your line of questioning, that we need to raise with the Commission for Revenue Allocation as well. Mombasa might be urban, but with all those economic issues that are raised, and I told you earlier, the levels of poverty individually has been rising. I don't think fees is the only issue. As a leader, I have to accept that we have to deal with our social issues as well. Issues that at times probably not for me just to go on national TV and start spreading our dirty linen and saying this and that. But at the end of the day, I've been having conversations with the education departments. One of the things that actually probably elevated our status in my previous years was my input in education. And I intend not to just replicate, but to also multiply the issues that I've been able to do.
What did you do in Vita that worked?
There's quite a lot. We had a program I started called the Top 3 program, which worked very, very well. We looked at the top students in every school. And the reason why I looked at it in every school and not the constituency as a whole, because every school is unique. You can't expect a school, I'm going to give you names, the viewers will probably understand. You can't expect a child who goes to Serani and a child who goes to a school like Kanjoni Primary or Sparky Primary, and they're all within my constituency. It's two different levels. But there are challenges for a child who goes to another area. And what we did is, when we started this program, we realized that these kids had potential, despite the fact that they were not, they did not get total A's when they were doing their standard 8s, but the fact that they were uplifted and they went to secondary school, they ended up performing. One of the things that crowns my personal, me as an individual during the campaign period, and I was somewhere, and literally a doctor comes and says, I was one of your beneficiaries. So when you see such kind of stories, and that's why I'm saying my intention is not to replicate, but to replicate and to multiply all this. Tomorrow, I'm confirming we had done a trial, and by tomorrow we're starting it. One of the pledges that we did in terms of education was the feeding program. I did this over a period of, even before I became a member of parliament, and I continued it using private funds. During examinations, we were feeding the kids who were doing their exams. But now we're saying it is our constitutional mandate to be able to do this. And we're starting with a feeding program. All public schools within the ECD from tomorrow are going to have having free lunch. Not a single penny is going to be paid by the parents. And that is just one of the many things that I want to do.
Why public? Why only
I
public
wanted to do it for all, but unfortunately capacity. So we had two options: either not do it at all and say that, we're waiting, or let us start with this with the hope of expanding. In fact, the initial part of this was to start in just public and in just some constituencies because capacity wasn't there. And I refused to start it. I said, no, I'm willing to say that let's start with the public with the hope of building up to the private. Okay. The only reason why we have not gone into the private as well is because we need the Food for Education who are doing this needs to enhance their capacity as well. You can imagine it's thousands of kids who are getting a hot meal at the same time and all over Mombasa.
Every weekday.
Every single day. It's going to start tomorrow and it's going to be every single day of the child going to school, and it's going to be totally free.
But this is for ECD?
This is going to be for the ECD, for the starters, and I'm hoping that the private schools as well will be included, because amongst the private schools that are there, not all schools are the posh private schools. We've got the schools that are coming from...
and actually, let me stop you there, because that's part of my pet peeves when it comes to education, the inequity in our education sector. Many of the ECDs and primary schools are in the older estates.
That
when
is
it comes
true.
to the low-income estates, you actually do not have public schools at all. Or if they're there, they're few. They're not catering for the population.
I think that applies mainly that applies. In Mombasa, it is very, very selective areas that would not have that. But that applies a lot in majority of the other areas in Kenya, that where all these issues of inequity in terms of the spreading of education. Mombasa, by virtue of its size, by virtue of everything else, we cannot be able to claim. We may claim other issues are against us,
but not that one.
But not that one. I think there are others who even go to the extent. I mean, I'm not saying that we are perfect. We're not yet, but there are others who are truly. There are other parts of this country where there's a lot that needs to be done.
Okay.
So we're starting with the public schools tomorrow, and with that we grow into the private schools. And when I talk about the private schools, I mean the schools that are out there in the slums and all the others that are out there.
Okay. You're talking about the areas that are, pain points for the people of Mombasa. They have actually also reached out to us and have said water is a big issue.
True.
The source of water for Mombasa County has been a conversation for a long time. Is it Mzima Springs? Is it going to come from a desalination plant? Are you going to look at Shimba Hills? Are you going to look for other sources of water? How do you want to solve the water issue in Mombasa?
First thing we need to do is sort our own internal mess.
What does that mean?
50% of our water that we get already, 50% of it is non-revenued. That means somewhere or the other it leaks out. So for every 100 that we're able to get, we can only be able to account for 50. So the first thing we need to do is that 100 that we already have, how can we be able to ensure that we account for an even bigger percentage than what we're currently doing? Secondly, there is going to be the projects that the national government currently intends to do. We have had this conversation at the summit, the last summit meeting that was there, where counties can be able to try and figure out ways of sourcing their own levels of water. It's a conversation I'm already having with the governor for Kilifi, where we look for a rich underground water reservoir that can now be able to be just solely for Kilifi and Mombasa County. So that's going to be an extra amount of water for us to be able to get on board. They were proposals and they had reached at very, very advanced stages. Unfortunately, I had to put a stop to it on desalination.
Why?
The cost. We were going to get the water for a price that you cannot be able to tell someone to take that water from you. And I felt that the company that was going to do
what was
this,
driving up the costs?
the cost of desalination by nature is quite high. The cost of desalination is high because of cost of power. And especially when you're doing mass. I was with an NGO about, was it yesterday or the day before, in my office, and they've been doing desalination, mini desalination plants that can do up to 70,000 liters a day, and they use solar panels on this. But 70,000 liters a day is a very, very small amount compared to what Mombasa needs in its entirety. The company had initially proposed, and I felt that it was not going to be worthy. The proposal that had come in, that we will set the desalination plant, we will do everything at our cost, and we will sell you the water at figure X, and whether you're able to uptake the water or not uptake the water, we know that you will have to pay. And I felt that that was not the right way. So what I have done is we have already finalized with, I mean, I can say, I hope I'm not using it as a marketing tool.
Go ahead. I mean, it's about accountability.
It's been out in the media already. We've signed with National Bank of Kenya, where we are now going to be issuing smart meters to every single household. And the reason why we've signed with National Bank, we don't want anyone to come and say that I can't afford a smart meter. If you can't afford one will be bought for you. Then small amounts will be deducted every time that you consume the water. And it's going to be something more of a prepaid system, something similar to the power.
Is this the main cause of the 50% loss in water revenues? Is it because of lack of smart meters?
Anywhere there is a level of human interference, two things can happen. Anywhere, not just in Kenya, anywhere in the world, where there is human interference, two things can happen. There's going to be a lot of good things or a lot of bad things. Why cast the shadow of doubt? Why not just do the right thing? Every single time I get people coming to tell me that, I'm getting a meter and I didn't get the water. Every single time you get people telling you that your own employees are part and parcel of the people who are going to go to the meters and opening up the meters are not being read. And then you have to understand these meters, by the way, there are two ways. The current system is you're given an estimate bill, or someone has to literally go house to house and read the number of units that have been moving. At a day and age like today, where if you have a pipeline, and that's oil, mind you, that's flammable, that's highly volatile, and they can be able to put out systems that if you touch it, however part remote you touch that pipeline, an immediate notification is sent. We have to go in ICT.
You have to adopt technology.
We have to.
But I want to push back on this because what I hear you say is 50% of the water that is actually being supplied to the residents of Mombasa does not generate the revenue that it should.
First of all, 50% of the water that goes to MOWASCO, Mombasa Water and Sewerage Company, not to the residents of Mombasa.
Okay.
It is meant to go to the residents of Mombasa. But then once it reaches MOWASCO, in the part of the distribution, we've got loopholes that we're losing out. So the first solution...
So is it going to waste, or is it going to people but they're not paying for it?
Both. But I think the amount of people as well who are actually consuming water and not paying for it. That's why you've got the water kiosk business. might seem small to you, but once you sit in the seat that which we sit in, you realize
it's big business.
It's a big business. You know, what is life?
Am I hearing you say, Governor, that if you sorted out all these issues, if you ensure that the water that is actually getting into Mowasco goes to the residents, you'd be able to supply, what, 100% of the population of Mombasa?
It's impossible. 60%? I'm not even going to lie on national TV and tell you that I'm going to be able to supply 100% of every single household. Not in my first 5 years, for sure. But I am going to make an improvement. An improvement that will be felt.
What's the number?
Right now, like I said, whatever it is that we're getting anyway is not enough. Then, after the fact that it is not enough, we're still losing half of it. So the first solution, do we go into the expensive issues of saying that we need our own water source and doing all these other things, or do we start by fixing our internal issues first? And the first thing that I have done is looked at it in terms of fixing it internally. And even for purposes of giving everyone access to water, there are certain areas, constitutionally, it is their right to be able to be provided with water. Certain areas, not every single person right now is in the comfort of their homes watching me on TV. Some people who are living in slums, and probably some people are watching me right now. And this is Mombasa on either congregated TV area.
Yeah.
So we're going to set up as well digital water kiosks in some of these areas where you get your card as well. You pay a certain amount and it's going to be cheaper than whatever it is that is currently being done. And you just take your card and you place it, and the amount of water that you want comes out. So there's no pilferage, there's no losses, there's no one saying that I paid 30 shillings here, I paid 40 shillings here. A wise man once said, take care of the pennies and the shillings will take care of themselves.
Governor, as we come to wind up the conversation, I've got to bring you back into, the issue of the ports.
Yes.
As a member of parliament, you're one of the biggest campaigners for, the port operations and the county government benefiting from the fact that there's a resource there.
And I'll still be.
Now you are governor. You sit in the summit with the president as chair of the summit. What are you pushing for?
We had a conversation with the president, and he did give his concurrence. We passed a finance bill. The Ministry of Transport wrote with their reservations, and the reservations that they came up with was whether the way it was worded and whether it was the county government was actually charging tax on trade. It's a constitutional debate and a discussion. I felt otherwise. I respect the opinion of the Attorney General, who wrote an opinion that the way it was worded was that it was a tax on trade. But even after that, we all agreed to sit down. The last meeting of I sat down with the CS for Treasury, CS for Transport. I sat down with the Attorney General and economic advisors, and we agreed on the way forward, on how this should be worded or how it should be reworded or what we need to do. And that is what we're working on right now.
Principally, what are you pushing for? Are you pushing for revenue split for every shilling that comes generated by the port of Mombasa?
The conversation could be either revenue share, conversation could be a charge on services that the county of Mombasa is providing. The fact that the port is in Mombasa is equally a strain on our resources. The port and the port users, there's environmental issues, there's the usage of seaward, there's the roads, there's All these things compiled together make a lump sum, and any port city in the world, comes with its own social vices. This is not unique to just Mombasa. Look at any port city in the world. It comes with its social vices. And some of the things that need to be done is we need to engage our young people, those who have already, I don't want to use the word that they've gone astray, but I want to use the word that they've slightly slipped, need to be given a hand to be lifted up, to go back into society, whether it was any vices that they got involved in, and rightfully so. We need to educate our people as well. Then, of course, there's that other argument as well, that is the port, and to me, yes, it is a natural resource. If the likes of Turkana can be able to gain from potential oil that is that is there, and the oil that is there, you've got royalties that are coming in from mining right now. There are a lot of counties are going to be able to benefit. The laws have already been put into place, and there's quite a lot.
So you want the same?
Yes.
For Mombasa.
It is not
with
about
regards
it is not about an issue of just wanting. It is about what is right. We can't. I mean, we can't just be saying that we have a sea and the only thing that we can be able to do in the sea is just swim. You know, and even after swimming, you don't even get a job at the Navy. We want our people to be able to benefit. I'm going to fight for that. I'm going to fight for that constitutionally. I'm going to fight for that diplomatically. I'm going to fight for that legally. I'm going to fight for that using the brains that God gave me and my parents took me to school.
You had a conversation recently with the CS, his Treasury, Transport, with the Attorney General, with the others, and you've said you have come to some sort of agreement of how it should be worded.
Yes, we have.
So, can you give us an indication? What is it that
you expect? We agreed to rework the bill. There's a lot of legal issues that are involved, you know, and I'm very, very grateful without even using, you know, other instances where you say that you want to hire external lawyers, the county government internally with its own lawyers sat down. I want to give a kudos to all the county employees who are doing the right thing. Sat down and drafted something that I feel, I went through it yesterday, gave my input into it. I think one of the things that has given me quite a huge advantage of being governor right now is I was a very, very keen lawmaker that 10 years. So it helped me. I went through the proposals, and by tomorrow I should be having an online meeting to be able to try and finalize and just iron out these issues.
The issue of accountability at county level. You are an ODM governor in the executive. The county assembly is majority ODM. So how do they hold you accountable? How do they check you? If you all feel that you are in the same bandwagon, do you feel answerable to them?
First and foremost, every single person has their role and their job. I want you to look at it on the other side of the coin. There have been other parts of this country where majority are coming from a certain party and they still don't see eye to eye with the governor. There have been other parts where every single person is of similar parties and people are just fighting. I think what is most important is we need to be held accountable, yes, held accountable in the right manner. Allow the MCAs the freedom to be able to do their role and their job in a manner just like the members of parliament should be able to be free and do what needs to be done. question where the issue that needs to be raised. But I don't think the fact that we are all in ODM, the constitution, the framers of this constitution never envisaged that what happens if all of you are in ODM. There was a time, by the way, in Mombasa, 100% of the MCAs came from the same party.
Yep, in the first term.
Yes. We currently hold the ODM party, Azimio is an outfit in Mombasa at the assembly, holds probably about, just a quick mathematics, probably about 93 to 95%. But there's still a public accounts committee, there's still the oversight committee.
So you're still accountable to them?
Oh, by all means, by all means. I mean, every time that I have a health task force report that we tabled, they asked questions and we were able to do the same. We passed the finance bill. They had issues that they wanted to raise. In fact, they even came up with some amendments to the finance bill as well. I respected the decision of the members of the county assembly, as long as it is a reasonable amendment. There's nothing wrong in being challenged in one way or the other.
Governor, our time is up. Our director tonight is from your county, and so she's been gracious enough to extend us a bit of time. So I'm going to ask the final question as we wind up. Speak to the workers of Mombasa who haven't received a salary for a couple of months. This is an issue. They say that their salary arrears.
No.
Is this right or is it wrong?
It's totally wrong. In fact, one of the things that I've been able to sort out, I thank God. I mean, the level of cooperation from the staff has just been immense. There's a number of people who are really, really good people in the county government of Mombasa. Do we have bad people? Yes, we do, and they'll deal with me. You can be rest assured of that. But we sorted out the salary issue. I actually signed up something with the Kenya Commercial Bank, and we don't have issues of salary delay. In fact, I think...
So everybody's up to date?
Yes.
As we speak?
Yes. My salary is paid the same time the sweeper is paid. The salary of the governor is paid at the same time the sweeper is paid. So that means that if I see it reflecting in my account,
then everybody has.
And by the way, it's not just salaries alone. Statutory deductions are on time. That means the NSSF, NHIF, everything, it's on time. Totally. KRA remittances are on time. Our financial obligations are currently on time. I have even given a pledge, and that is something that I'm going to not relent on with the finance department. And I'm hoping the new CC and the chief officer will realize where I'm going with this. My intention is very simple. If I don't have the money, I will not buy. If I don't have the money, I will not seek for the service.
Okay.
But if I seek for that service and if I buy, then I will pay within a period of 90 days. So whoever wants business, please, right now is not the time, because my priorities are set, and I will not engage. I refuse to engage in a situation where even to be told that usijali utalipa baadaye. That will not happen. The credit rating for the county government of Mombasa will be so high that everyone wants. Two things are going to happen within our tenure. One, for a person who's doing business in Mombasa, their prices will be so competitive because they know they're going to be paid. Two, for a worker who is working for the county government of Mombasa, the levels of things that I've planned for them in terms of all the other, not just salaries alone, but all the other issues that come in by virtue of being an employee working for the people of Mombasa, including loyalty cards to certain establishments, including access for you to be able to get something. There's nothing wrong for a worker of the county government of Mombasa to actually be a homeowner, or to own a motor vehicle, or to own a motorbike, just by virtue of the credit rating of the county government of Mombasa going high. The fact that we honor our word is something that is very vital. Lastly, you talked about accountability. This is something that, again, I will move with the way the world is moving digitally. We are very, very soon going to be announcing ICT systems in the whole of Mombasa, where we're not just going to be having intelligent CCTV systems. Means if you decide to steal from someone at Digo Road today, if that camera catches your face, facial recognition is already there. 3 days down the line, you appear somewhere else, an alert will be sent that the guy who you're looking for is currently at this and this place. And this is going to be able to assist us as well. All these people right now, we've got, and no one is going to be stopped from doing their businesses. But we're not going to allow for people to create chaos because they were told don't use a U-turn. You decide to use a U-turn. You do that the day you're coming for renewing of your business permits and everything else. There's a fine that you will pay for it, and it will not go because it is all digital. Even to the effect that we are going to be having a system, and I'll be advertising for this, I think by next week, where there are going to be drones flying. If you're going to be someone who is doing illegal, your building had better be finished in 7 days, because after every 7 days we'll be getting drone notifications that there's a site going on at a certain place and it is an illegal site that is going on. We'll work with technology.
We'll hold you accountable for that.
Thank you very much.
Your Excellency,
Thank you very much.
Abdulswamad Nassir, asante sana for joining us.
Asante sana.
Thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Of course, like we said, we'll hold you accountable for everything that you've said tonight.
When is our next interview?
We'll let you know.
3 months.
In accountability, in a quarter.
In a quarter.
We'll have you here.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for tuning in to KTN Newsline tonight. Do have a lovely evening. My name is Eric Latif.
Asante sana.
KTN News. Get the